Rather than talking about how crappy anxiety can be after chemo and cancer, I thought I'd talk about the ways that I've actually managed it. The first big thing that I use is breathing and grounding techniques. I use this technique especially when I get suddenly overwhelmed with a lot of anxious thoughts and really negative thinking. So I start thinking about the cancer coming back, doing chemo again, dying, the effect of my death on those that I love. So just generally really crappy stuff. And I feel like when I am in that kind of state, the best thing for me to do is start to breathe in and out really deeply and start counting those breaths. So I start counting in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then breathing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or you can decide whatever number works for you, but I find that really helpful. So that way I start doing that for a couple of minutes if necessary, until I stop myself in that train of thought, because I keep focusing my thoughts, I keep bringing them back and pulling them back just to the breathing, keep thinking on the breathing, just keep counting. Eventually my thoughts will calm down or they'll go away, and I'll be able to have this kind of window where I can distract myself or do something else that is more productive than just being in this awful spiral. The grounding technique I use, and you've probably heard of, is just thinking about what surrounds me. So thinking about what I can hear, what I can see, what I can smell, and what I can feel. And so often I'll be on the couch and I'll be thinking about the way that the couch touches my legs, or hearing the wind outside, or feeling the air against my fingertips. And just focusing on that makes my mind go back to the present rather than thinking about the past and the future, which I think a lot of anxiety feeds on our thoughts of the past and the future. My second technique is light, simple exercise. Now I know we're probably thinking like, I don't want to do exercise. And if you're one of those people who, like me, I never liked doing it and I always hated hearing, oh, you should be doing exercise to make yourself feel better. Yeah. I understood the science behind it. I know that you have those good chemicals that get released when you do exercise, but really it has helped my mental health a lot, and I'm glad that I finally did it. And my exercise is really, really simple. Like I just try to go for walks around my neighborhood, around the streets, and often I'm listening to a podcast. That way I'm distracted. I'm not letting my thoughts wander and start, thinking catastrophic things. I'm focusing on my podcast. I'm doing a little walk, enjoying the scenery outside. And my other main exercise is doing yoga, and I'll do yoga at home, and I'll be watching YouTube and following those yoga instructors online. And so these exercise routines don't cost me anything, and they're very light and simple, and I can choose to increase kind of the intensity of them if I want to, but really it's about having this consistent rhythm that I'm doing, and that I'm out of the house. As someone who never really liked to do exercise and is doing quite a bit of it now, I would just suggest starting really simple, really small, and just do it for your mind first, and then if you want to, you can push it further. Another big thing that I do to help my anxiety is making to-do lists. So not only do I have a to-do list that I have these things that I want to do, which might be really simple, like crocheting or reading a book or going out with friends, but then each time that I complete that, I'll move it over into my to-do list. So each week I can see what I've done, and I find that really helpful, because if I'm unproductive or feel like I'm being unproductive, it makes me anxious and worried and hopeless and make me feel useless, and then that obviously feeds a bad cycle of anxiety. I use a website called Trello, but you can obviously use pen and paper if you want, but just make sure to actually have a list called the to-do list or something along those lines, so that way you can not only cross out the things that you've done, but also rewrite them and remind yourself of all the things that you've done, because I think that's the really important psychological aspect of this kind of exercise, to remind you of all the great things that you completed, and that they're just as important as doing things that are work or study related, because these things are obviously helping with your recovery over things like your anxiety, depression, or other side effects you might have from chemo. The fourth thing that I've written down is picking up a new hobby or reigniting an old one. Because my anxiety really feeds off this fear of being unproductive or feeling like I'm useless, or I'm never going to get to where I was before, I feel like the best hobby, in my case of anxiety, but maybe also yours, is to do hobbies that make you feel like you've actually created something, that make you feel more capable in some way. So even if, for example, I picked up crocheting, which crocheting is no real life skill that is needed anymore, but when I finish doing something, when I finish crocheting something, I feel good because I'm able to see the product that I've made. I feel like I'm a capable human being, like I've created this thing, I've brought it into the world, which feels a bit dramatic, but it's really, really true. And so other hobbies that I have, like for example, gaming, I really love gaming, and there's always a place for that kind of hobby. But for me, I don't really feel like I'm productive when I finish playing a few hours, because it takes so many hours to normally finish a lot of these games. And some games have no end. And so that's just my personal story. So maybe someone else, maybe gaming feels really productive when they complete it. But I think you'll probably all have hobbies that make you feel more capable, that make you feel really good because you've created something, versus others that maybe feel a little bit more mindless and you kind of just get lost in it, and it serves a different purpose in our lives. I think the really important psychological thing with this kind of exercise is that if you're learning something, you're reminding yourself that you can learn new things. If you're picking up an old hobby and just improving on it, you're reminding yourself that you can improve your skills, and also that you can create things and bring things into the world, whether they're creative or not. Also want to mention that distraction is a great technique, but I didn't originally put it in, I guess because I think it's one that probably everyone does all the time, but it definitely has its place, especially if you suddenly get like a lot of awful anxious thoughts and you start doing those breathing and grounding techniques. Then often what you need is to distract yourself for a solid amount of time to try to pull you out of that really awful anxious state of being. The sixth and final thing that I've put on my list that I think is really helpful is forcing yourself to be social even if you don't want to sometimes. There have been so many times when I've agreed to a social event that's at the end of the week and I'm doing nothing that whole week, but that day will still come and in the morning I'll feel just really blah and yuck and I just don't want to do anything and I don't want to be social at all. But normally whenever I actually force myself to go do that, I end up really enjoying myself and being really thankful and grateful that I did that. And obviously, you know, everyone always has those days, no matter if you've been through something kind of traumatic like cancer or anything, but I think that often it increases after, especially when you start having more mental health struggles. And so I think it's really important to break that and not let the anxiety or depression, you know, take control of you for that day and go out and do it, especially if you know that you will enjoy yourself and you've always enjoyed it in the past, so why not keep doing it? So there's 6 big things that I really try to incorporate into my life to manage my anxiety, and I pretty much do them daily. And remember to practice self-care in whatever way suits you best. And sometimes we feel like we don't even need to see someone, but we kind of have like niggling, you know, mental health stuff kind of going on in the background. And seeing a professional who's just objective can be really helpful and provide light and shed light on what's going on for us in a different way that we hadn't thought of before. And please comment down below with your own coping strategies or things that you found really helpful. Thank you for watching my video and please take care. Okay, bye. I'm just going to cover the basics of what Hodgkin's lymphoma is. And I'm not a doctor, I'm just someone who's gone through this.